At the very beginning of the movie, we are taken all the way back to 1979 Wrangell, Alaska. We're introduced to a rugged lumberjack named Carl, just an ordinary working man wrapping up a long shift and heading to the bar with his crew. Nothing unusual, nothing alarming. But then, on the drive over, Carl's radio starts crackling with interference, and before he can even process what's happening, he watches in absolute horror as his friend is physically lifted off the ground and into the night sky. Carl stops the truck. He gets out. He runs toward where his friend had been standing, and that's when he sees it. A UFO, right there, hovering above him. He runs. Of course he runs, but whatever that thing is, it doesn't let him go. A beam of light pulls him upward, and just like that, Carl vanishes from his entire life. We don't know where he went. We don't know what happened to him. And for now, neither does anyone else. This opening scene is crucial, because Carl's story doesn't end here. It actually runs parallel to everything that's about to unfold decades later. Keep that name in mind. We are then introduced to our main character, Isaac, a brilliant young NASA intern working at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. He's sharp, driven, and clearly passionate about space science. He rides his bike to work, greets his colleagues, and immediately gets to business. One day, Isaac intercepts something unusual at work, an audio signal coming from Canada. Strange, considering there are no known satellites operating in that region. He decrypts it, rebroadcasts it on their satellite network, and files it away. Just another curious data point in a day full of data points. But curiosity has a way of growing. Later that same night, while burning the midnight oil, Isaac notices that his computer has flagged an incoming file transfer. The origin? Unknown, no traceable source. Most people would probably ignore it or flag it for review. Isaac? He digs in. Now here's something interesting about Isaac that we learn through a therapy session. He's going through something emotionally. His therapist notices that while he seems to be healing physically from something, she's concerned about what's happening on the inside. She suggests he keep a daily video diary as a form of self-expression. Isaac agrees, even though he clearly finds it a little awkward at first. And this small detail, the video diary, becomes one of the most important decisions of his entire life. One afternoon, while recording one of his diary entries outdoors, Isaac notices something falling from the sky. Not a bird, not a plane. Something crashing into the nearby forest with enough force to shake the ground. Isaac does what any curious scientist in training would do. He goes to investigate. He pushes through the trees, gets close enough to see military vehicles arriving at rapid speed, and instinctively hides. Smart move. But he pushes even further, and what he sees stops him cold. A spaceship, partially embedded in the earth. Real, physical, right there. He raises his camera. He starts recording. The ship is rotating slowly, almost elegantly, like it's powered by something beyond any human engineering. And just as Isaac processes the magnitude of what he's witnessing, he realizes there is something standing directly behind him. He turns slowly, an alien, standing there, watching him with an eerie calm, not aggressive, not attacking, just observing. Isaac raises his camera to record it. The alien glances at him almost as if it's acknowledging him and then simply turns and walks away. Isaac, thrown between terror and fascination, actually chases after it. That is the last thing he remembers. When Isaac comes to, he is alone in the California hills. His surroundings are quiet. The military is gone. The ship is gone. The alien is gone. And 3 full days have passed. He doesn't know this yet. To him, it feels like maybe a few hours. But his camera is still there, and when he plays back the footage, he sees it with his own eyes. His abduction. On video. Clear as day. Now strange things start happening. Back at home, Isaac watches his television, and it disappears. Just blinks out of existence right in front of him. He walks toward where it was, and his hands pass through what feels like an invisible wall. Then the TV reappears. He does the same thing with his camera. It vanishes. It comes back. He doesn't know what this means. He doesn't know if he's losing his mind. He visits a doctor, partly to address the nagging sensation in his arm. The doctor's expression shifts almost immediately when he pulls up the X-rays. There's a fracture in Isaac's arm, but not like any fracture the doctor has seen before. It's geometrically perfect, and the scarring, non-existent. As if the break happened and was partially healed by something far beyond conventional medicine. The doctor steps out to review the images further, and Isaac just sits there, staring at his arm, wondering what was done to him. Back at work, Isaac pulls his colleague Beck aside and decides to test something. He places a cup on the table and concentrates, and the cup disappears. Isaac watches Beck's face for a reaction. Beck looks completely unbothered. Because for Beck, the cup never moved. It's sitting right there. He picks it up and hands it back to Isaac, visibly confused. This is the terrifying implication. Isaac may be the only one who can perceive certain things now. Something from the encounter changed him in ways he's only beginning to understand. Realizing he has extraordinary footage and nowhere to turn, Isaac does the one thing that feels logical. He uploads the alien video to a public space science platform online. Within hours, it explodes. He wakes up the next morning to nearly 1 million views, a flooded inbox, and media requests pouring in from every direction. The comments are divided. Some people are completely convinced the footage is genuine, while others are already calling it an elaborate hoax. Isaac agrees to an interview. He tells his story calmly and clearly. But the interviewer isn't interested in the truth. She zeroes in on the fact that Isaac, a NASA intern with advanced technical skills, just happened to have a camera at the exact right moment. She implies he fabricated everything digitally. When Isaac pushes back, she shuts the interview down. The mainstream media picks a side quickly fake. And Isaac is left alone with an experience he cannot explain, footage the world won't accept, and a body that's doing things it shouldn't be able to do. Desperate to connect with someone who understands, Isaac searches online for other abduction accounts, and he finds a forum post that stops him mid-scroll. The details are too specific, too familiar. Whoever wrote this has been through something eerily similar. He reaches out. They agree to meet at a diner. When Sarah finally arrives, she's guarded, understandably so. She's a stranger meeting someone from the internet about the most unbelievable experience of her life. She doesn't open up immediately, but Isaac shows her the footage. He shares the supporting evidence he's gathered, and slowly, the walls come down. Sarah brings up a name Isaac hasn't heard before: Carl. The lumberjack from Alaska, 1979. She says a group of men, including Carl, took lie detector tests after a reported alien encounter. Every single one of them passed, except Carl. And then Carl disappeared. Isaac files this away. Before they part ways, he gives her his number. Later that night, Sarah calls him. She shares more details about Carl's story, and Isaac searches for any trace of him online. Nothing. The man has been effectively erased from public record. He asks Sarah to send him a scanned copy of the article she found. There has to be something in there. While attempting to mail physical copies of his footage to news outlets, trying to get around the digital skepticism, Isaac crosses paths with a man named Keith, a writer, a blogger, someone who claims he wants to help Isaac tell the real version of his story, not the distorted version that the media has been running with. Keith seems genuine. He proposes a plan: compile all the evidence, pair it with a professional lie detector test, and publish it in a way that the public simply cannot dismiss. Isaac, out of options and running low on allies, agrees. He takes the lie detector test. He passes. But before Keith can celebrate the results with him, men in black show up. Isaac tries to run. He doesn't make it far before he's hit with a stun weapon. Isaac regains awareness, strapped into a chair inside a stark white room. Across from him, through reinforced glass, he can see Sarah. She was taken too. A man introduces himself through a monitor: Agent Graves. Calm, professional, and deeply unsettling. He tells Isaac they need to run some tests. A series of objects are placed on a scale in the adjacent room. Isaac is told to focus on them. The agents monitor his physiological responses carefully. Isaac asks where he is. He asks where Sarah is. Graves tells him to focus. Nothing visible happens during the tests, at least nothing Graves is satisfied with. He steps away to regroup, and that's when Isaac makes his move. He escapes. Not through a vent or a hidden door, he destroys the robotic guards, with abilities he didn't even know he fully had yet. He tears through the facility, finds Sarah, and the two of them run hard for any exit they can find. Laser fire. More guards. Isaac grabs a weapon from one of the fallen machines and uses it to clear a path. They reach a locked door with no obvious way through. Isaac stares at it, concentrates. The door opens. They emerge not in California, not anywhere in the United States. They're in Costa Rica. Agent Graves immediately mobilizes. He knows exactly where they're headed. Isaac and Sarah find a local cafe and start thinking. They need to track down Carl, somehow, with no phones, no resources, and agents closing in from multiple directions. A woman at the cafe points them towards someone named Zed, a tech-savvy local who operates out of a waterfront spot and has the kind of skills that don't exactly appear on a resume. Zed agrees to hear them out. One condition: no lies. The moment he catches a single one, he walks. They barely get through the introduction before Isaac spots Graves' agents moving into the area. They slip out just in time, and Zed, now invested, brings them back to his treehouse. On the balcony, Sarah finally opens up about her own abduction to Isaac in full. It turns out she already knew who he was before they met at the diner. His face had been all over the news. She came anyway, because she needed someone who understood. The two of them are drawn together, not just by trauma, but by something deeper, a shared experience that the rest of the world is not willing to accept. Inside, Zed is working through databases trying to locate Carl. He's hitting dead ends. But then Isaac remembers something: the audio signal from Canada. The one he intercepted and rebroadcast from NASA's satellites months ago. What if those weren't random signals? What if they were coordinates? They run the numbers. A cabin in the woods, British Columbia. Zed finds a contact point and places the call. When the line connects, Isaac calls out Carl's name. The call ends immediately. But Zed has a workaround. He bypasses the cutoff and forces the call through. Isaac speaks fast, tells Carl about the signal, about what he experienced, about everything. The moment he mentions the data he received at NASA, Carl stops him. He wants that data. Zed pulls it from the NASA system. They transmit it to Carl, and when Carl processes it, the message becomes clear. The aliens are returning. They're coming to British Columbia, and they have 5 days. Carl tells them to go off-grid immediately and logs off. Isaac turns to Sarah. They have to go. She hesitates, and honestly, who could blame her? But she agrees. Zed, fascinated and fully in at this point, comes along. The three of them travel across land, sea, and air, avoiding detection the entire way. Graves is already one step behind, pushing hard to intercept them before they reach Carl. On the train through Canada, Zed tracks the agents on his laptop and spots them boarding the same train. Isaac, Sarah, and Zed put on masks to fool the robot's facial recognition systems. It works on the first one. The second one gets dangerously close, and a chase breaks out across the roof of a moving train. Zed handles the last robot with a well-timed kick, and just like that, the three of them are free again. They reach the cabin. Carl comes out with a weapon raised, ready to defend himself at all costs. Isaac talks him down, introduces everyone, and Carl immediately asks if they've been tracked. They don't know what he means. Carl runs inside, grabs a device, and deactivates something in each of them, tracking devices, implanted during their abductions. Graves loses the signal entirely, and the fury on his face says everything. Inside the cabin, Carl explains everything. After escaping whatever happened to him in 1979, he spent decades trying to make contact with the beings that took him. The signal Isaac intercepted at NASA, that was Carl's transmission. And the response Isaac unknowingly rebroadcast, that was the most significant alien reply Carl had ever received in all his years of trying. Isaac didn't just intercept a signal. He completed a communication chain that Carl had been building for decades. As a thunderstorm rolls in overhead, the four of them sit together, Carl sharing his story, Sarah finding unexpected peace in a record playing softly in the corner. For the first time in what feels like forever, none of them are alone. Carl pulls Isaac aside privately and tells him something heavy. When the aliens arrive, they'll likely only get one chance. Things could go either way. They need a plan. The day comes. The ground begins to shake. Carl says they're close. Isaac walks out the door and starts running into the forest before anyone can stop him. Carl looks at the others and simply says, "Let him go." Isaac runs until he finds it. The same alien from before, standing in the woods, waiting. Back at the cabin, with Carl's translation equipment running, the alien communicates directly. It tells them that their species has studied humanity extensively, but there is one thing that lies beyond even their vast understanding: the origin of the universe. And they believe a specific human consciousness may be a link to that answer. The alien touches Isaac's forehead and projects a vision, then asks who the figure in that vision is. Isaac answers, "Jesus Christ." The room goes very quiet. The alien, satisfied with the response, asks if they have any further questions. Sarah speaks up. She asks why her arm has been hurting since the abduction. The alien places a bracelet on her arm and peels back the skin to reveal a small tracking device embedded beneath. It removes it, then does the same with Isaac. And then Graves arrives. Military vehicles surround the cabin. Graves demands they come out. He's not just doing his job, this is personal. He wants to know what happened to his father, Robert Graves, a man who we can only assume had his own encounter that was never fully resolved. Carl walks out. He tries to tell Graves that he genuinely doesn't know what happened to his father. He's telling the truth. Graves doesn't want the truth. He wants resolution. He orders his men to open fire. Carl goes down. Sarah goes down. Zed scrambles for cover. Inside, the aliens finish removing Isaac's tracking device, and before they leave, they look at him and tell him to use his abilities. Isaac walks to the door. He looks out at the chaos, at the agents, at his friends bleeding on the ground, and he focuses. Time slows. Everything around him decelerates into a quiet, suspended stillness. He walks through the frozen scene, lifts Sarah, and vanishes. He comes back for Zed, then Carl. He brings them all to another dimension where the aliens heal every wound. Back at the cabin, Graves stands in the middle of nothing. The people he was hunting are gone, the spaceship lifts silently into the sky, and he watches it disappear, with no answers, and no one left to question. 6 months later, the world has moved on. Isaac and Sarah are together, something that grew slowly and quietly out of shared trauma, and the kind of understanding that only two people with the same impossible experience can have. Zed and Carl are collaborating on a science initiative together, channeling everything they know into something constructive. And Agent Graves? Fired. Sometimes, the people chasing the truth are the last ones to find it. And that is proximity. A story about what happens when one ordinary person stumbles into the most extraordinary secret in human history, and the world decides it would rather discredit him than believe him. It's about isolation, connection, and the terrifying beauty of not being alone in the universe. Now I want to hear from you. If you woke up tomorrow with proof that aliens exist and gave you abilities you don't fully understand yet, what would you do first? Would you go public? Stay quiet? Run? Drop your answer in the comments below, and if you're not subscribed yet, what are you doing? Every week we break down movies just like this one, and you're going to miss the next one if you don't hit that subscribe button right now. Don't be that person who shows up late to the conversation. Subscribe, comment. We'll see you in the next one.